Welcome to our March Microsoft Teams news show. I'm Rob Scott, and today I'm joined by Tom Arbuthnot from Empowering.Cloud, and together we're going to dive into the latest announcements in the Teams space. We're joined by our distinguished panel of Teams experts. A very warm welcome to everybody, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, Rob.
Hey, Tom. How's it going?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Yeah, it's a busy start to the year, all goes. Good bit of news to get through. Obviously, next month, the end of this month is Enterprise Connect, so a bit of news held up for that, but still we've got some yet more AI news and some Rooms news and some phone news as well.
Absolutely. You can tell a lot of vendors are holding some of these announcements back now for Enterprise Connect. There's things coming through, bubbling under the water. But also, I don't know whether I should say this, but I'm kind of getting a little bit sick of hearing the word Copilot right now, Tom. I'm hearing it all the time. Wherever I go, whatever I do, it's Copilot, Copilot, Copilot. And even Elon Musk has decided to sue OpenAI in the last kind of week, which was breaking news. What do you think of that?
This is super interesting. Obviously, if you look back, Elon was one of the founding funders of OpenAI and Sam when it was all being established, and even pulled in some of the talent. I think he put 50 mil or something in to start. And back then it was an open source project, and obviously it's now pivoted into an open source entity with a commercial arm. I think Elon's kind of challenging what happened there, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, Elon's got his own AI machine going as well. I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't see anything radically changing, but you never know. And you can also see Microsoft are making some strategic investments in different AI projects as well. So Microsoft are kind of spreading their risk, I think, a little bit with things like Muriel and others to see, if anything was to have OpenAI problems, they'd have other options as well.
It is interesting, isn't it? It feels like he's got a bit of a sore head over that deal, but he has kind of specifically pointed out that the way that they've gone from a not-for-profit to a profitable, a normal profitable business, that sets a precedence for a whole raft of issues potentially in tech in years to come if that's continued to be allowed. So it's more than just like, the toys are out the pram. It feels like he's got a point that, in terms of the way OpenAI have kind of...
Yeah, he's not in it. He's not in it for the money, is he? He's in it for the conversation and the challenge, I think. So we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, I think it is interesting how in just a few years they were from open source to having a big commercial arm and now being worth billions.
Interesting though. I mean, the day after that happened, him and Sam Altman were high-fiving on Twitter, over something else. Which so you do wonder what how much truth is in some of these or in this kind of story around the suing and legal action. But it will be interesting. I mean, what happens to Microsoft in that? Because they've got a big stake in OpenAI now.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think in their quarterly earnings a while ago, they kind of acknowledged the potential risk. When Sam Altman got fired temporarily, and suddenly it was like, oh my goodness, what happens if that whole thing collapses and we put 11-12 billion into it? Yeah. But I mean, Microsoft they're hedging their risk. So they've made investments in other AI projects as well, and there's obviously various open source models as well that all run on Azure. So it would be a huge commercial hit to Microsoft, but from a technical point of view, there are options on the table.
Yeah, things are going to get interesting. Anyway, let's talk Copilot because we've got
because it's a month of news. We can't not have a new Copilot, right?
Right. Well, there was a big announcement, wasn't it? Copilot for finance. Let's talk about that first.
Yeah. So this is interesting. So we've had Copilot for service, Copilot for sales, and now Copilot for finance. And Microsoft seem to be playing an interesting model here, which is these are $50 per user per month kind of licenses, and it's basically the same thing but with a twist specifically in functionality in that direction. So Copilot for sales, obviously the idea is the salesperson is assisted in their sales calls and their CRM integration. Copilot for service is the contact center / customer experience one where it's customer emails and contact center coaching. And finance, as the name suggests, is to help finance people. So it's diving into ERP systems, Microsoft Dynamics, all from a financy point of view, some Excel capabilities. And with these, you get the Microsoft 365 Copilot in the SKU, and then you get these extra functions on top. So it's kind of a Copilot plus for a specific role. I wonder how many more of these we'll get that are targeting on a subset of users to say, spend this little bit extra money to get this little bit more focused Copilot for your business use case.
It certainly makes sense, doesn't it, to go down the kind of vertical market route, and build these bundles. Is that considered a premium package then, Tom? Or
yeah, it's definitely extra on top. So I haven't seen the pricing for finance, but the other two have been $50 per user per month. So I imagine finance will be the same model. So it's kind of like this little staircase Microsoft are creating, where it's like, well, Copilot commercial data protection is included in your Microsoft 365 SKU. Then you step up to Copilot for Microsoft 365. Then you step up to, if you've got a specialist role like sales or service or finance, you can step up again. And it's only another $20 on top of your $30. So it's kind of like they're staircasing you up to these specialist use cases. But still, $50 a month, if it delivers value to those kind of roles, is a totally sign-offable, ROIable amount. It's not a crazy number if it delivers. And that's the key thing. I think that we've got to get these more experience on the ground with these specialist Copilots to see if people are going to use them at scale.
Yeah, let's talk about our next news item, because we said we talk about Copilot languages, which there's more happening there as well, which is interesting, Tom.
Yeah, definitely. I think Amanda picked this one up, so it'd be interesting to get her perspective on it. But we've got some new languages coming to the model, which unlocks it for a lot of local markets.
Amanda.
Let me introduce you to. So this, most of you here are English native speakers, so I guess most of your meetings are in English. But me, I'm Swedish, and so I have meetings in Swedish and meetings in English, and I speak English, I would say, pretty well for not my first language. So it's doable, but there are a lot of customers in Sweden that want to be able to have the Copilot experience in your local language. And basically, you can prompt in Swedish, you will get results in Swedish. And I think the part that's most interesting is how it work in meetings, because today the meeting experience with Copilot, it is very good, and I would say that it's not perfect, but it's manageable when you're speaking in Swedish. So now I'm curious, like, will the translations be better in Swedish, or will they still be a little bit wobbly as they are today? How will it work when we're flipping between languages? So there's a lot of different things to try out, and I said that I think there will be 17 languages added, and like in end of April. I'm very looking forward to testing this, and hopefully it will be a smooth experience when you're using different languages in every other meeting.
Yeah, I think that they're adding, so it's Dutch, Arabic, Chinese, Czech, Danish, Finnish, Hebrew, Hungarian, Korean, Norwegian, Polish, Portuguese, Russian, Swedish, Thai, Turkish, Ukrainian over March and April. So that's, a substantial amount. It's already supported in English in various versions: Spanish, Japanese, French, German, Portuguese, Italian, Chinese simplified. So significant addition for those local market use cases.
Yeah. Are any of you familiar with any other language than English? Have you tried it in another language?
No, my wife's Finnish, so she can do Finnish, Swedish, and a bit of French, and I can do just about English. So
only the language of generation X, Y, and Z, or Z, which I find it's quite interesting if you put that twist in your prompt that you want to talk like you were talking to someone in generation X or another. It's quite funny, quite amusing.
It'll just be like a one-word answer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like a slang translator.
It just only answers in emojis.
Yeah, but the experience now, it is very bulky when switching often between meetings. So I'm hoping that they are doing something to fix that experience, but I'm not sure. So we will live, wait, and see.
I'd hope it gets better in meetings. It does prompt you when you start it in meetings, say which language is being spoken. So hopefully we'll have options to give it a cue as to what it should be trying for.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, it is exciting. I love the language and translation capabilities within Teams and Copilot. I think it's game changing, isn't it? It's bringing us all together. So it's fantastic, especially for global businesses or multilingual businesses.
Yeah.
A real game changer. Let's move on to Teams rooms. Lots happening in this space. I think, first of all, Tom, we said we'd go over to Graham for a bit of an Android.
Big update, and I feel like Graham will do it more justice than me. So, Graham, dig in.
So there's actually a recurring theme here. Last year, Q1, big update from Microsoft for the Android platform, and the same thing this year. Big update. And when I say big update, I mean the catching up with Windows, or feature parity with Windows. Windows is a little bit more mature in terms of the platform. It was out first, and then Android is playing this sort of catch-up game, or it's got some advantages over Windows already. But some of the things are making it seamless. So when you walk into a room, it doesn't matter if it's Windows or Android. So they've got a new calendar UI. So it matches what the Windows rooms look like. It matches the Teams panel outside the room as well. So a consistent look and feel, whichever device platform you're on, but also the booking panel outside the room as well. A new feature coming to both Windows and Android is actually meeting ID and passcode. So this is where maybe you have a device in a public space or an office where people can walk into. When you join the meeting, everyone wants that one button to push, that simple click to join. It actually puts the passcode behind there, so it makes it a little bit more secure. So maybe your boardrooms, you don't want people walking in and just joining calls. So it gives it that extra layer of security protection, and that's coming to both platforms. But also, again, another feature that's parity with Windows now is choosing your layout. So if you want to move from a normal gallery to a large gallery to together mode or front row, the UI again is exactly the same now between Windows and Android. So again, users won't need to know what sort of style room they're in. They're just in a Microsoft Teams room. And again, some Teams premium features that have been applied to platforms. So if you're doing encryption end-to-end, you want to mark your meetings with sensitivity labels, that's now all adhered to. We already supported watermarks. So if you share content, you know who leaked it. So that was already supported. And again, a feature that was in the product, and then they broke it last year, and it's now back, and that's being able to call out externally. So if you can walk into a room, dial someone externally like you can from your Teams client or from your mobile phone client. So some features there, and bug fixes as always in the platform. So yeah, that's a pretty major update in what we call update 1, and I think they've got a pretty aggressive roadmap, and we'll cover this over the next couple of months on new features rolling out to both Windows and Android.
Yeah, there's a lot coming, isn't there? They pushed quite a lot of features into Android. You say Android seems to be catching up with Windows a little bit now. It's nice to see those premium features coming in as well, because if you're paying for premium, you absolutely want the capability on your rooms, regardless of whether you chose Android or Windows. And
how do we get access to this update?
So it's actually rolling out for OEMs at different times. So you'll go into your Teams Admin Center, and you can see if there's an update available. And actually a new mechanism, most rooms have a front of room bar and a controller on the table. Again, new mechanism that was released in Q4 last year was if you update one, it updates the other. So again, making it much seamless updates for Teams admins managing the devices. So yeah, you can go into your Teams Admin Center and hit update, test out the new features. Probably one of the things that you may have to do for users is new user guides, because the UI has changed ever so slightly. So again, it might need some training and adoption for some organizations on that piece. But if they're used to having Windows, they would have seen this UI for probably 2 or 3 months anyway, because it's already been on Windows. So people might be already familiar with it.
That's a key thing, isn't it? Like, some customers have mixed environments of Windows in certain rooms and Android in the other, and it's jarring if you expect a certain feature to be under a certain button on one and it's not on the other. So I'm glad they're bringing that experience together in terms of all the basic, functionality is the same in the same place with the same UI.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Thanks for that, Graham. Next up, we said we'd talk about daily maintenance restart Windows. Tom?
Yeah, this is straight off the back of, I guess, that update. It's interesting. So forever, Microsoft Teams rooms on Windows have had this kind of 1 a.m. restart to just kind of, force any updates to happen and reboot them and keep them fresh for the next day. And now we're getting the same capability for Microsoft Teams rooms on Android. So it'll default between 2 and 3 a.m. It'll do a quick reboot. Android devices reboot a lot faster than Windows, so it won't take very long. But just be aware if you're doing any kind of monitoring or anything or experience there that you'll be starting to see Android reboots early in the morning as well.
So those late night meetings may get disrupted, Tom.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah, I did have a customer with that, like that issue that they're a 24-hour customer, and they were like, you can control when the window is when the window for the reboot is on Windows. I expect you will be able to on Android as well.
You can do it through the configuration profile in Teams Admin Center, so you can push out like a global policy or certain regions or offices and assign that policy to those rooms. So you might want to do a 4 to 5 a.m. or a different time.
Yeah.
Great. And another rooms update. We said we'd talk about controlling your Teams room with your Windows PC on both Windows and Android. Yeah,
this is a nice one. So for a while, we've had the ability to remote control the room experience from a mobile device. So this is things like, join meeting and meeting settings, and now you'll be able to do the same thing from Windows, which is, I think, is a more common use case. Is you run into the room with your laptop and you can remote control the room. I'm not sure it's super discoverable as an experience, so it'll be interesting to see how many people use it and find it, but a nice capability nonetheless.
I think just to add on that one, it's Windows PCs, not on Mac just yet. Yeah, as you say, discoverability isn't the easiest. If you've joined the meeting, you've got to add an app to the meeting to use it. But I think it's key because in maybe some of the larger spaces where you can't have multiple controllers and you want someone controlling the meeting, maybe a moderator, then either use their mobile phone or install the app for that meeting, and then they'll be able to control it, mute it, move the camera, etc.
Good stuff. And last but not least, in the room space, we said, I think we touched on this before. We said we'd talk about Android Auto and Microsoft Teams fully supporting that. I think we've kind of just gone up a notch in terms of functionality. And
yeah, that's it. We talked about it a couple of months ago as a feature coming, and now Android Auto is supported and rolling out. So if you've got an Android device, you plug it into Android Auto, you should see those extra capabilities pop up in your Android Auto experience.
Super. And I suppose, Tom, that's coming from your native device. So as long as you're updating your smartphone, you should get that functionality.
Yeah, no special requirements other than, have your smartphone on the most current version, which it will also update by default.
Good stuff. Right. Well, let's talk Teams Phone. First of all, Operator Connect Watch. Tom?
Yeah, we got 4 new countries or 5 new countries, I think, recently. So we're up to 96 now. So I'm watching this pretty carefully. So this is over all the providers, but it means that we're getting close to that kind of 100 countries covered mark. So I'm keeping a close eye on this. And I heard on the grapevine there's another big provider coming in relatively soon who'll be offering a whole bunch of countries. So keeping a close eye, but it's interesting to just see this ticking along now. New providers being added. Hawaii Telecom were on the other day as another one. And we're probably going to hit 100 countries before we hit 100 providers, depending on how it goes over the next few weeks.
Great stuff. Right, let's talk private lines. Tom?
Yeah. Again, we previewed this a few months ago, on the roadmap. But now administrators can enable a second private line for users. So this is typically like an exec use case where they will give out a special phone number to friends and family that bypasses any kind of queues, admin assistants, delegates, will ring in direct, will give a special toast so that those people can ring through and bypass the kind of reception administrator type process and just hit straight through to you. So that's now available to configure for anybody who needs it.
Just going to open that up to the audience for a second. Satish, Amanda, Graham, is that something you feel is going to be useful? Can you see that being used?
Absolutely, it would be much more useful, especially where you want to have 2 lines. One is that. One thing to really note in terms of the private line is right now it's only supported for your inbound calls. The outbound calls are not supported on this private lines capability. So it would only be available for your inbound calls. And in the current release, it is only being supported via PowerShell. So the Teams Admin Center rollout is still pending. So not sure when we will have those as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks for that, Satish. Okay, next up, Tom, we said we'd talk about IP phone models from SNOM being compatible with the SIP gateway, or do you want to explain that one? How does that work?
Yeah, so this is interesting. So SNOM, for those that go back that far, used to be a certified provider of Link and Skype for Business phones way back. And they actually did the OEM work for some of, I think it was HP's phones as well. But then they kind of dropped off the radar in the Microsoft world and were never seen again in our world. And then now out of the blue, they've got 2 devices that are Microsoft called it compatible, so they've been approved for use with. It's not certified, but it amounts to the same thing. They were allowed to access the Teams SIP gateway, meaning you can buy these more kind of cost-effective phones. It's the D735 and the D717, and connect them up to Teams and use them as IP phones. So they don't have all the Teams software and the Teams kind of Teams phone functionality. But it does feel like more and more, because Poly had some phones certified for SIP gateway that are new phones a couple of months ago as well. Microsoft seemed to be saying SIP gateway is okay for, you've got common area phones or phones in retail or whatever else. You don't necessarily want to buy a multi-$100 phone with a really nice touchscreen and all this advanced capability. You just want a functional phone. SIP gateway phones are definitely an option now.
I think also in like manufacturing areas, as you say, like retail, where you don't need that touchscreen or you can't use it with gloves on, etc. You want these lower cost devices that could be replaceable quite easily.
Yeah. So nice to see Microsoft kind of adapting to that opportunity.
These phones with your shared calling capabilities would be a perfect use case wherein you can also use it with shared devices as well. It would be more of a cost effective for all those manufacturing and retail use cases.
Definitely, yeah, they're really cost sensitive. Yeah, so you're starting to pair in interesting scenarios. If we've got a lower cost phone license now with frontline worker, we've got shared calling, meaning you don't need a DDI and a calling plan per device, and cheaper devices as well.
I know Snom's got a really quite strong portfolio of handsets, especially on the Wi-Fi depth side as well. Does this mean that Snom is certified or just compatible?
Yeah, it's a weird one. Things for SIP gateway are called compatible rather than certified. So there's not a kind of certification. Well, I mean, you have to be approved to be connected to the SIP gateway. So not any device can connect. But yeah, the correct language is compatible with SIP gateway as opposed to certified for Teams.
So you're not going to see them in the Microsoft Teams store as an available certified device, but you could hang them off a SIP gateway and you'd be okay.
Yeah. In the same way you can hang, the DECT phones from Poly and others, or certain PA systems like Ascom. There's all these sets of devices that are SpectraLink as well, compatible and approved for use with the SIP gateway, and it's a slightly different category to runs the team software, like the certified IP phones, for example.
Great, thanks for explaining that, Tom. Okay, next up, we said we'd talk about a public preview of Azure Operator Call Protection. Tell us more.
Yeah, I just picked this out because I thought it was quite interesting. So this is more on the Azure for Operators side, which Microsoft are increasingly kind of pushing and seeing success within the operator space. So it's running your telco functionality on Azure. And BT are now trialing this new public preview of Azure for Operators Call Protection, which essentially is using AI for scam calls, like anti-spam calls. So using AI to help protect consumers from those calls, which is a huge issue, especially in certain markets. And if we think about where AI is going, it's only going to get worse because the automation is getting cleverer and cheaper. So it's cool to see Microsoft putting the AI to use to kind of combat that challenge.
So you can ask Copilot to create some spam calls, I guess.
I mean, there literally is a Copilot for Azure Operator now. I hesitated to bring it up on the Copilot list of Infinity tasks. Commsby next, I'm doing a session on all the Copilots, and I'm like, where do we draw the line here? But yes, there will be a Copilot for this for Azure for Operators as well.
That's one of our most popular articles on UC Today right now is Copilot Guide, because people just don't understand it. There's so many Copilots now.
No, I mean, how could you? It's crazy. Also, like others use that name. So even outside of Microsoft are encouraging it to call your AI, your custom-baked AI Copilot. So yeah, it's almost an infinity of options.
It's like they've taken a word again, haven't they, and just stolen it from our dictionary.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's genius marketing. It's such a good phrase for the use case as well. It really they caught something there.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, good stuff. That's the end of our news round so far, but we're going to jump onto events. I mean, we've got some really great events. It's event season coming up now, and lots happening in the team space as well. Tom, top of the list, I thought I'd just plug Channel Partners, which is obviously a partner-focused event, but that's coming up on the 11th of March. I'm sure a lot of our audience are going to be there as well, but plenty of Teams type conversation, I imagine, happening at that event. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really huge event. It's not one that's on my regular rotation because it's kind of cross vendor, isn't it? But it's a big one in Vegas, so yeah, no doubt there'll be a lot of conversation there. And obviously, channel and teams and telco and opportunities is a big conversation at the moment.
Yeah, indeed. UC Today will be on location at that event, and hot on the heels of channel partners, it's Enterprise Connect in Florida, the one we all look forward to the most.
This is a big one for us in the industry we're in. Is a lot of announcements happen there. Microsoft have got a lot lined up. We've been getting some early briefings, and a few of us on this call are over in Seattle in a couple of weeks for MVP Summit. So hopefully we'll get some early eyes on that kind of stuff. But really looking forward to Enterprise Connect. And I'm doing a training on the first day around operations and teams and best practices, but I know there's a lot of good sessions there. Kevin Keeler's doing some good sessions. I think Ilya's there, Nicole's there, so there'll be some big teams news dropping there for sure.
I wonder what the word of the event will be. Any guesses?
I hope it's not AI. I hope we're over that now, but probably
it's not AI or Copilot, but it's bound to be one of them.
Yeah,
Pilot AI.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I know some of the other vendors in the UCaaS space are kind of showing their latest capabilities on AI. So it's quite interesting to see who's doing what and what the SKUs are and the cost models. It's very interesting.
Absolutely. This time last year, we'd only just heard of OpenAI and generative AI properly, I suppose, mainstream, and they've had 12. The vendors have had 12 months to productize it. Generative AI and all these other technologies, haven't they? So I think it's going to be a great show. Lots of products with AI capabilities, I would imagine. But I will equally be looking out for something a little bit different as well to see what's available to us. But shortly after, in April, we've got Comms V Next, and that's another great community event, Tom. Will you?
Yeah, this is a totally legit community event, all run via MVPs, really super focused on that team space. So, kind of everybody's using Teams is there. Again, I'll be speaking, fortunately, there. That's the session I'm doing on every Microsoft Copilot, the name, the price, and the capabilities, which I've definitely got fully prepped and ready to go. So that'll be fun. But there's so many good people there. So yeah, if you can get there in Denver, it's a smaller focus show on just our space.
And last but not least, this year's biggest, I suppose, most popular Microsoft event has just announced its date. And it's got lots of dates apparently, but the big date, the Microsoft Ignite main event, is coming up November 18th to the 22nd, and it's in Chicago. What do you think to that?
Yeah, so back to Chicago. So we did Chicago quite a few years ago, and it proved to be a bit of a logistical challenge from the hotels and the buses and everything. I quite like Chicago as a place, so I'm quite happy to go back there from a place point of view, though it might be a bit chilly in November, but it's before the kind of crazy snow they tend to get, hopefully. But yeah, big in-person event. And as you said, Rob, they're doing these kind of regional Ignites, which are kind of recap, catch-up type sessions as well. But this is the big one where we should get a lot of the big announcements.
Great
Since
stuff.
it's 5 days again, I think, looking at the dates, I'm hoping for a real Ignite again. And I haven't been in the venue because I wasn't there in Chicago, but I've heard that it's a pretty big venue. So hopefully a lot of vendors and booths and fun things going on.
I would imagine by November there's going to be a lot on show, for everyone to enjoy. Recap on some of the early innovations from this year and last year, but let alone what's likely to come. What do you think, Tom? Are we going to have a big year of innovation from Microsoft?
Yeah, definitely. It'll be AI fest for sure. But as you say, Ignite's one of those ones where they give us a forward-looking projection as well. So usually we get a lot of what's coming in the next quarter or two and a bit more vision, which is super interesting. But as Amanda says, there's just such a great opportunity to catch up with people across the wider Microsoft space as well, not just the kind of subset people, because everybody's there, all the Azure people, all the products, and importantly, all the kind of community, vendors, partners, everybody's in the space.
Cool. Well, that's it from us. If you want to be part of the conversation, you can connect with Tom, myself, and our great guest speakers on LinkedIn and X, and our social links are in the description. Thanks to Tom and our guest speakers, and thank you to everyone for joining us. We'll be back again next month with another drop of essential Microsoft Teams news. Thanks for watching.